The Blues Brothers wasn't just a movie. It was a rhythm and blues explosion, a mission from God that immortalized the cool, chaotic spirit of Chicago. But take off the black sunglasses, and you'll find that the blues were all too real for the cast. Behind the high-energy musical numbers and car chases lurked a dark underbelly of self-destruction, fatal addictions, and sudden shattering deaths that silenced the music far too soon. The party ended abruptly for these legends, leaving behind a trail of tears amidst the wreckage of their own lives. Join me as we hit the road one last time to uncover the heartbreaking destiny of the band members who have played their final note. John Belushi, born on January 24, 1949, portrayed Joliet Jake in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. At the age of 31, Belushi was the chaotic heartbeat of the film, a comedic force of nature who seemed invincible on screen. However, his financial and physical reality was a terrifying spiral of self-destruction. While he earned a reported salary of $500 for the role, a significant sum for the time, though dwarfed by the film's $115 million gross, his earnings were rapidly incinerated by a severe drug addiction that cost him an estimated $2,500 a week during production. The Blues Brothers' budget famously included a provision for cocaine to keep the star functioning, a grim testament to his dependency. Behind the sunglasses and the deadpan humor lived a man tormented by the pressures of fame and a deep-seated insecurity that no amount of applause could silence. He was burning the candle at both ends, partying with a desperation that terrified his friends, hiding his profound loneliness in a cloud of narcotics. The tragedy of John Belushi is that the very energy that made him a legend was the fuel for his demise. He was a man running a race against his own mortality, and he lost. John Belushi passed away on March 5, 1982, from a drug overdose of cocaine and heroin at the age of 33, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $2 million. John was the wild frontman, but the rhythm that kept him standing came from a bassist who spent his life in the shadows creating the groove for legends while earning a fraction of their fortune. Donald Dunn, born on November 24, 1941, portrayed himself in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Appearing at the age of 39, Dunn was already a musical giant, the bass player who had shaped the sound of Stax Records and Otis Redding. Yet in Hollywood terms, he was merely a sideman. While the film became a cultural phenomenon, Dunn's compensation was structured around musician union rates, and a flat fee likely totaling between $30,000 and $50,000 for the grueling shoot and recording sessions, a humble paycheck compared to the millions raked in by the studio and the lead actors. He was the backbone of the band, smoking his pipe and laying down the law with his bass, but he lived the unglamorous life of a touring musician, sleeping in buses and hotels far away from home. His tragedy was not one of scandal, but of the silent toll of the road. Decades of late nights, smoke-filled clubs, and the physical grind of performing took a toll that the audience never saw. He was a man who defined the sound of a generation, yet could walk down the street largely unrecognized, his contribution measured in notes rather than dollars. He died as he lived on tour in a foreign land, passing away in his sleep after finishing a double show in Tokyo. Donald "Duck" Dunn passed away on May 13, 2012 from heart failure at the age of 70, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $3 million. Duck provided the rhythm, but the soul of the group came from a man who had seen the golden age of jazz rise and fall, acting as a father figure to the boys on their mission. Cab Calloway, born on December 25, 1907, portrayed Curtis in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. At the age of 73, the legendary Heidi-Ho Man was brought out of semi-retirement to play the mentor who taught Jake and Elwood the blues. Calloway was a remnant of the Harlem Renaissance, a man who had once been the highest-paid black performer in the world in the 1930s. However, by 1980, his fortune had largely dissipated through decades of changing tastes and lifestyle costs. His fee for the Blues Brothers was a respectful but modest legend rate, estimated at around $50,000, a figure that highlighted how far his commercial value had fallen since his prime. The tragedy of Cab Calloway in his later years was the melancholy of outliving his era. He watched the jazz clubs he once ruled turn into parking lots, and the music he pioneered get repackaged by rock stars who earned 10 times his wealth. He stood on set as a living museum piece revered by the cast, but financially dependent on this late career resurgence to maintain his dignity. He hid the physical frailty of his 70s behind his iconic white tuxedo, delivering a performance that masked the aches of a body worn down by 50 years of dancing. Cab Calloway passed away on November 18, 1994, from a stroke at the age of 86, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1.5 million. Curtis taught them the music, but it was a terrifying nun who taught them discipline, played by a woman whose stern face hid a lifetime of being Hollywood's most reliable punching bag. Kathleen Freeman, born on February 17, 1923, portrayed Sister Mary Stigmata in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Known to the world as the Penguin, Freeman was 57 years old when she terrorized Jake and Elwood with a ruler. She was the ultimate working character actress with over 300 credits to her name, yet she remained perpetually in the financial middle class of Hollywood. For her iconic role in this blockbuster, she likely earned a standard supporting salary of approximately $15,000 to $20,000, a mere drop in the bucket of the film's budget. Freeman's life was defined by the struggle of the unattractive female actor in a vanity-obsessed industry. She was always the maid, the battle axe, or the neighbor, never the love interest. She accepted this fate with a stoic professionalism, working constantly just to maintain a living, never receiving the massive back-end points that the male stars enjoyed. Her private tragedy was a battle with lung cancer in her final years, a disease she fought while continuing to work, refusing to let illness stop the show. She died just days after finishing her final role, a testament to a woman who had to work until her very last breath, because retirement was a luxury she couldn't afford. Kathleen Freeman passed away on August 23, 2001 from lung cancer at the age of 78, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1.5 million. The Penguin sent them on a mission, but along the way they met a queen who was fighting to reclaim her throne from the disco era that had nearly destroyed her career. Aretha Franklin, born on March 25, 1942, portrayed the soul food cafe owner in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. At age 38, the Queen of Soul was in a professional valley. Her career had stalled during the disco craze, and she took the role in the film to revitalize her image. Despite her legendary status, her pay for the cameo was surprisingly low, rumored to be a flat fee of roughly $20,000, as she was viewed by the studio as a fading star at that specific moment. While she belted out Think with ferocious power, her personal life was a tapestry of pain. She was trapped in a turbulent marriage to Glenn Turman at the time, and carried the scars of previous abusive relationships and a childhood marked by trauma. Franklin struggled privately with alcoholism, chain smoking, and severe weight fluctuations, using food as a comfort against the lonely isolation of superstardom. In her final years, she waged a secretive and agonizing battle against a rare form of pancreatic cancer, hiding the severity of her condition from the world to protect her image of strength. She died without a will, leaving her heirs to fight over her fortune, a chaotic end for a woman who demanded respect. Aretha Franklin passed away on August 16, 2018 from a pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor at the age of 76, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $80 million. The Queen demanded respect, but our next guest was the godfather of soul, a man whose explosive charisma on stage masked a life of violence, prison, and drug-fueled madness. James Brown, born on May 3, 1933, portrayed Reverend Cleophas James in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Exploding onto the screen at the age of 47, the godfather of soul delivered a sermon that became one of the most electric moments in cinematic history. Yet, the man who preached salvation on screen was living a life of chaotic damnation off of it. While his cultural capital was immeasurable, his financial compensation for the film was surprisingly modest, estimated at a flat fee of approximately $30,000 to $40,000. This sum was a mere pittance compared to the millions his music generated for record labels, a disparity that fueled his lifelong paranoia and mistrust of the industry. Behind the cape and the polished pompadour, Brown was spiraling into a terrifying abyss of PCP addiction and domestic violence. The hardest working man in show business was actually a man on the brink of collapse, terrorizing his own household with shotguns and rage, while the world applauded his dance moves. He spent decades fighting the IRS, owing over $14 million in back taxes, at one point a financial noose that tightened around his neck even as he performed for presidents. His tragedy was the violent war between his genius and his madness. He could control a crowd of thousands with a flick of his wrist, but he could never control the demons that eventually led him to prison and ruin. James Brown passed away on December 25, 2006, from congestive heart failure and pneumonia at the age of 73, leaving behind a contested estate estimated at $100 million. The Godfather brought the gospel, but the man who sat at the piano in the next scene brought the pain, a genius who saw more in the dark than most men see in the light. Ray Charles, born on September 23, 1930, portrayed Ray in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. At age 50, the musical titan appeared as the blind music shop owner who shakes a tail feather, a cameo that celebrated his status as a living legend. However, his paycheck for this iconic appearance was likely a standard cameo fee in the range of $25 to $35,000, a humble figure for the man who practically invented soul music. Charles was a rarity in the industry, a man who owned his own masters, but his journey to financial independence was paved with immense suffering. Blinded by glaucoma at the age of 7 and traumatized by witnessing his younger brother drown in a laundry tub, Charles carried a burden of guilt and darkness his entire life. To numb the pain of a world he couldn't see, he spent nearly 2 decades enslaved by a crippling heroin addiction, a monkey on his back, that cost him his health, his marriage, and millions of dollars in legal fees and drugs. The joyous smile he flashed in the film hit the scars of a man who had been arrested multiple times and humiliated by the Jim Crow South he toured. He was a genius who turned his pain into beauty, but the darkness of his childhood never truly lifted. Ray Charles passed away on June 10, 2004 from acute liver disease at the age of 73, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $75 million. Ray was the genius of the keys, but outside on the street sat the grandfather of the blues, a man whose gritty reality inspired the entire film, yet lived a life of quiet struggle. John Lee Hooker, born on August 22, 1917, portrayed Street Slim in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Already 63 years old when he sat on Maxwell Street playing Boom Boom. Hooker was the authentic link to the Delta blues that Belushi and Aykroyd worshipped. Yet the disparity in their fortunes was stark. While the stars of the film were earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, and living in luxury, Hooker's cameo fee was likely a union scale payment of perhaps $2,000 to $5,000. For much of his early career, Hooker, who was illiterate and could not read the contracts he signed, was routinely exploited by record executives who paid him pennies for songs that generated fortunes. He spent decades on the road playing in dangerous juke joints and sleeping in cars, living the hardscrabble life he sang about. His presence in the film gave it credibility, but it highlighted the cruel irony of the music business. The originators of the sound often lived in modest obscurity, while their imitators became millionaires. He was a man of few words who let his guitar speak the pain he couldn't write down, carrying the weight of the Deep South in every note. John Lee Hooker passed away on June 21, 2001 from natural causes at the age of 83, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $5 million. The bluesman played the roots, but the woman chasing the brothers was Hollywood royalty, a princess fighting a war against her own mind in the midst of a cocaine blizzard. Carrie Fisher, born on October 20, 1956, portrayed the mystery woman in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. At just 27 years old, Fisher was arguably the most famous woman on the planet due to Star Wars, yet she took a supporting role as the vengeful ex-fiancé for a salary estimated at $40,000 to $50,000, a fraction of what she commanded as Princess Leia. But behind the heavy weaponry she wielded on screen lay a woman who was actively destroying herself. Fisher later admitted that her drug use during the filming of The Blues Brothers was the worst of her life. She was consuming massive amounts of cocaine and LSD to quiet the screaming in her head caused by undiagnosed bipolar disorder. She was partying so hard with co-star John Belushi that even he, a man notorious for his excess, told her she was out of control. It was on this set that she famously choked on a Brussels sprout and was saved by Dan Aykroyd, leading to a brief whimsical engagement that masked her deep instability. She was the princess of Hollywood, but she felt like a prisoner in her own body, using humor and narcotics to survive the electric shocks of her mental illness. Carrie Fisher passed away on December 27, 2016 from cardiac arrest linked to sleep apnea and drug exposure at the age of 60, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $25 million. Carrie was the star trying to kill them, but the man chasing them with the law was a lovable giant whose heart was literally too big for his body to sustain. John Candy, born on October 31, 1950, portrayed Burton Mercer in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. At 30, Candy was a rising star from SCTV, bringing a lovable, bumbling charm to the role of the parole officer. His salary for this supporting role was modest, likely in the range of $20,000 to $30,000 long, before he became the million-dollar leading man of Uncle Buck. Candy was the clown who made everyone smile, but he carried a heavy, silent burden of anxiety and grief. Haunted by the death of his own father from a heart attack at a young age, Candy lived with the terrifying premonition that he was a ticking time bomb. He masked his deep-seated insecurities and panic attacks with food, creating a vicious cycle of obesity that he could never break. On set, he was the life of the party, famously snorting cocaine with Belushi and partying until dawn, but in private, he was a sensitive soul, terrified of not being liked. He gave so much of himself to the audience that he left nothing for his own survival, working himself to exhaustion in the heat of Mexico until his heart finally gave out in his sleep. John Candy passed away on March 4, 1994, from a heart attack at the tragic age of 43, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $15 million. John Candy was the lovable authority figure, but our next villain was a small man with a hateful ideology, played by a comedian who specialized in the absurd macabre. Henry Gibson, born on September 21, 1935, portrayed head Nazi in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Best known for his poetry on Rowan and Martin's Laugh In, Gibson brought a terrifyingly calm absurdity to the role of the Illinois Nazi leader delivering the iconic line, "I hate Illinois Nazis," into the cultural lexicon. At the age of 45, Gibson was a respected character actor, yet his financial compensation for this cult classic was surprisingly modest. Industry estimates suggest his fee for the role was a standard supporting rate of approximately $15,000 to $20,000, a figure that pales in comparison to the massive budget of the film, which saw cars being destroyed by the dozen. While he played a hateful villain on screen, Gibson was a gentle, soft-spoken man in real life who often struggled against typecasting. He was a master of deadpan humor, but his career was a constant fight to be seen as more than just a sketch comedian. His tragedy was not one of scandal, but of a quiet, private battle against a relentless disease. He continued to work in voice acting and television, hiding his pain from the public until his body could no longer sustain the fight. He died just days before his 74th birthday, a beloved figure who brought laughter to millions but departed in silence. Henry Gibson passed away on September 14, 2009 from cancer at the age of 73, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1.5 million. Henry played the leader of the fascists, but the leader of the good old boys was played by a man with a granite jaw who spent his life playing tough guys until his own body betrayed him. Charles Napier, born on April 12, 1936, portrayed Tucker McElroy in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. With a jawline that could cut glass and a voice like gravel, Napier was the quintessential tough guy of 1980s cinema, famously known as the Winnebago driving leader of the country band that chases the brothers. Appearing at age 44, he was a favorite of director Jonathan Demme, yet he remained a working-class actor his entire life. His salary for the Blues Brothers was likely a weekly rate that totaled around $15,000, a humble paycheck for a man whose face is instantly recognizable in everything from Rambo to The Silence of the Lambs. Napier was the definition of a blue-collar actor, often taking roles in B-movies to pay the bills, lacking the luxury of picking and choosing scripts like the A-listers he supported. His personal tragedy lay in the physical decline of a man who built his career on strength. In his final years, he suffered from deep vein thrombosis, a condition likely exacerbated by his earlier years as a truck driver before he found fame. He collapsed in his home alone, succumbing to the heat and his failing health, a quiet end for a man who had survived explosions and fights on screen for decades. Charles Napier passed away on October 5, 2011, from heat exhaustion and deep vein thrombosis at the age of 75, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $2 million. Tucker McElroy was a man of loud threats, but our next guest was a silent waiter who would go on to build a children's empire, only to see it destroyed by a single night of scandal. Paul Reubens, born on August 27, 1952, portrayed waiter in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Before the world knew him as the man-child Pee Wee Herman, Reubens was a struggling 28-year-old improv comic, appearing in a blink and you'll miss it cameo as a rude waiter. For this tiny role, he earned a standard Screen Actors Guild Day rate, likely no more than $500, a stark contrast to the multi-million-dollar empire he would build just a few years later. However, the tragedy of Paul Reubens is one of the most painful falls from grace in Hollywood history. After creating a character that defined childhood for a generation, his life was shattered in 1991 when he was arrested for indecent exposure in an adult theater. The media brutally mocked him, stripping him of his career and forcing him into a decade of reclusive exile. He spent the rest of his life trying to rebuild his reputation, fighting a battle not just for his career but for his dignity. His final act was his most heartbreaking. He privately battled cancer for 6 years, never telling the public, engaging with fans on social media with his signature wit while knowing he was dying. he suffered in silence to protect the joy he gave to others. Paul Rubens passed away on July 30th, 2023 from acute myelogenous leukemia at the age of 70, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $5 million. Paul played a waiter before he was a star, but our next extra was dancing in the street years before he became the most beloved father figure in television history. James Avery, born on November 27, 1945, portrayed man dancing outside Ray's shop in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980, long before he ruled the Banks household as Uncle Phil in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Avery was a 35-year-old aspiring actor struggling to get his foot in the door. He appears briefly in the joyous musical number Shake a Tail Feather, an uncredited extra, who likely received a mere $50 and a boxed lunch for his energy. It is a humble beginning for a classically trained Shakespearean actor who would later voice the villain Shredder and become a TV icon. Yet, the tragedy of James Avery lies in the suddenness of his departure. He had survived the Vietnam War and the brutal rejection of Hollywood to achieve global fame, only to lose his life in a hospital bed during what was supposed to be a routine recovery. He underwent open-heart surgery to fix a problem, but complications arose that cost him his life, leaving a generation of fans feeling like they had lost their own father. He was a giant of a man with a booming laugh who was taken just as he was enjoying the legacy of his hard work. James Avery passed away on December 31, 2013, from complications following open-heart surgery at the age of 68, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $3 million. James danced with joy, but the cocktail waitress in the film carried a sorrow that no dance could cure, for she was the wife watching her husband slowly kill himself. Judith Belushi Pisano, born on January 7, 1951, portrayed cocktail waitress in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. As the real-life wife of John Belushi at 29, Judy appeared in the film as a cameo, earning a scale rate of roughly $1,000, but her true role was that of a caretaker in a war zone. She watched helplessly as the man she had loved since high school spiraled into a drug addiction that the film production actively enabled. She was the woman who had to clean up the wreckage, fighting a losing battle against the dealers and hangers-on who surrounded John. Her tragedy was the widow's burden. She was left alone at the age of 31, tasked with managing the complicated legacy of a legend while enduring decades of accusations that she had been an enabler. She spent over 40 years keeping his memory alive, producing documentaries and books, never fully escaping the shadow of the tragedy that defined her youth. Her own life ended recently after a long battle with cancer, a final quiet struggle for the woman who had lived through the loudest storms of 1970s comedy. Judith Belushi Pisano passed away on July 5, 2024 from cancer at the age of 73, leaving behind an estate tied to the Belushi millions. Judy was the manager of John's life, but the manager of the band in the film was played by a crooner who represented a dying breed of entertainers and who faced a heartbreaking forgetting at the end. Steve Lawrence, born on July 8, 1935, portrayed Maury Sline in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. As the slick, fast-talking booking agent, Lawrence brought the charm of the Rat Pack era to the chaotic world of the Blues Brothers. At age 45, he was already a music legend alongside his wife, Adie Gourmet, yet his fee for this special guest appearance was likely in the range of $20,000 to $25,000, a token sum for a man who sold out Las Vegas showrooms. Lawrence represented a golden age of show business that was fading away, but his personal life was shattered by tragedies that money could not fix. He suffered the devastating loss of his son Michael to a heart condition at a young age, and later the death of Adie, his partner on stage and in life for 55 years. The silence that followed her death was deafening. In his final years, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a cruel condition that slowly erased the memories of the songs and the love he had shared with the world. The man who had a quip for every situation was left in the fog of dementia, dying just months before the passing of his co-star, Judy Belushi. Steve Lawrence passed away on March 7, 2024, from complications of Alzheimer's disease at the age of 88, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $10 million. Maurice Sline was a slick agent, but our final musician was a man who played the piano with fingers hardened by a century of labor, the oldest soul to ever grace the stage. Paintop Perkins, born on July 7, 1913, portrayed Luther Jackson in the film The Blues Brothers in 1980. Appearing as the street musician arguing over an electric piano on Maxwell Street, Perkins was 67 years old and already a certified legend of the Delta Blues, having played with the likes of Muddy Waters and Sonny Boy Williamson. Despite his monumental influence on the genre that the film sought to celebrate, his financial compensation for this cameo was humiliatingly low, reflective of how the music industry had treated bluesmen for decades. He likely received a standard union scale payment of approximately $1,500 to $2,000 for his day, on set, a figure that stood in stark contrast to the millions the film grossed using the music he helped pioneer. Perkins' life was a testament to survival against violence and vice. His career as a guitarist was cut short in 1942 when a chorus girl stabbed him in the arm during a bar fight in Arkansas, severing his tendons and forcing him to switch to the piano. He lived a hard-drinking, chain-smoking life on the road, existing in the poverty that birthed the blues, only receiving his first Grammy Award at the age of 97, the oldest winner in history. He was a man who carried the history of African American suffering and joy in his fingertips, largely underpaid and underappreciated until the very end of his endurance. Pinetop Perkins passed away on March 21, 2011 from cardiac arrest at the age of 97, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $3 million, mostly accumulated in his final years. The credits may roll, but for the cast of the Blues Brothers, the darkness didn't end when the director yelled, "Cut." It lingers, a chilling reminder that fame often comes with a terrible price. Now, I turn the question to you. Was this truly a sinister curse that hunted them down one by one, or just a series of cruel coincidences? Whisper your theories in the comments below. I read everything. If you have the courage to uncover more of Hollywood's buried secrets and blood-stained legacies, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell into the darkness. Until next time, remember, the truth is often scarier than fiction. Goodbye.